Hi clowns! If you clicked on the title of this video, then you're wondering if Coldplay have a new album coming out soon. Well, yeah, they will have a new album coming out at some point. I just don't know when. But I thought I would make this video to collect all of the evidence we have together so far. I'm feeling a bit like that guy that's like stood in front of the board, you know, the conspiracy theory meme. If you weren't around yesterday, Coldplay changed their layout on all their social media to just be a completely neutral thing, no everyday life branding or anything. Rest in peace, sun and moon emoji. I'm gonna go through absolutely everything way back from October to now that we know so far of everything that's been said or like happened. To begin with, way back on October 8th, 2019, there was a rumor broken by it was like a random journalist, I think, if I remember correctly. This was before we had any of like the posters confirming that Everyday Life or like November 22nd date was a thing. And it basically said that Coldplay were going to have two albums, like back to back. One in the end of November 2019, which was obviously Everyday Life in November, and one in 2020. First hint that obviously they plan to do a quick follow-up, which I guess is something that they maybe will carry on doing now, because that was what they did for like Ghost Stories was May of 2014, and then Head Full of Dreams was December of 2015, so it was two really close albums where usually they'd have like 3 or 4 years between each one. So then on the 18th of November 2019, their record label confirmed that they want to release another album, quote, as soon as possible after Everyday Life. A quote from Mark Mitchell, who's the co-president of Coldplay's record label Parlophone, said, quote, "There's nothing set in stone, but what we can say is there's a desire to do another record to follow this up quickly. This album came very, very quickly. They worked on tracks for the rest of the summer, so there's a lot of ideas left off this record, which they're hoping to follow up as soon as possible." And if you remember when Orphans was released, Chris said in interviews that he was almost going to leave it for the next thing, and then he showed it to the rest of the band, and they were like, no, we have to release this now. And then maybe Flags got booted off the album, which is sad, because I love Flags, but Orphans is also a great song. So then on 22nd of November, this beautiful thing was released, Everyday Life. Amazing album. And in the centre of the booklet, there's this mysterious thing, which is a billboard, which has Music of the Spheres on it. And it has some like symbols in the middle. It says in the bottom left corner, Coldplay coming soon. And then there's a car there, which is not from Guy Berryman's Instagram for once. And it says on it FFTF 2024. So that is something that we don't know what it means. I just remembered Luminous Things in Cry 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 is quoted in something to do with Music of the Spheres. Let me just find this up. Luminous. Yes. Okay, so in Cry Cry Cry, Chris refers to a book called The Luminous Things. That said book contains a poem on page 7 called Music of the Spheres. That is another link between stuff. So that was uncovered in December. So that was by Coldplay Extra. So I will put a link. I'll put a link to everything that I've quoted from in the description so you guys can go read it. Then on the 28th of November, they did a session, like a BBC thing on the radio, and they performed Cry 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 live, which has a high-pitched voice, which is just Chris, but he said, quote, "There's more to come from that story in a bit of time. It's sort of a new character that we made called Angelina. She's a new voice in our band. It's secretly another person pitched up, Chris, but I can't possibly say who. She's an alien." So this kind of fits with the Music of the Spheres space theme, because it's planets, like it's clearly planets. So Angelina could possibly be like a character on the album or something to do with that. And so that's another hint. They definitely have got very far in the creative process of the album, clearly, if they know characters and stuff. Then on the 10th of December, they were doing like some promo in France, and Chris said on a French radio station interview, asked him about the album booklet, and he says it means something, but he wasn't sure if the fans had noticed. Which Girl, we had literally been losing our minds over it since release day. So that was sad. That was disrespectful for him to assume that we hadn't been speculating about this for ages, but there we go. This next bit is a little bit of the like crackhead theory, but it's a bit spooky now. So on the 18th of December, this Twitter account called @9EREHPS sent its first tweet, which is spheres 9 backwards, obviously. It's basically this account that's been tweeting kind of random like codes or something ever since then, so you can go and like look through the tweets and stuff. But we do know that they did use a bit of like social media teasing in the Everyday Life album cycle, because on the day that Arabesque and Orphans were released, they made 2 Instagram accounts called @Sticks1919 and @Baritone1919 and followed them, and they both had lyrics from Arabesque and Orphans. So that was a fun little like detective-y bit when we found them. Thing is, this one makes me a bit skeptical because it's not anything like actually from the band, but I mean, you can go check out the tweets and see what you think, but it wasn't set up or anything before the album was released, so this could easily just be someone who decided to mess around with people, which you do you. Whatever makes you happy, torturing us. Then on the 16th of January, we're doing the last little bit of promo for Everyday Life in Los Angeles, and Chris confirmed that Music of the Spheres does mean something. A fan phoned in to some radio station and like he was replying to people doing a question and answer, and he said that they wouldn't put Easter eggs in things if they don't have meaning. So just basically reconfirming what we already knew, that Music of the Spheres is.
Will you give us any information about that?
No.
All right, there it is.
But it's been lovely talking to you. Some things have got to stay secret.
There it is. It keeps the marriage spicy.
But we tend to not put little Easter eggs out unless we mean something.
The 12th of March, the Trouble in Town music video is released, and in the music video there's a QR code, and also at one point in one of the cars you can see a driver's license which says 11th of the 5th, which could either be the 5th of May or the 11th of November. No, the 5th of November. The 5th of November, so that could be a hint. I don't know if like that's more on Coldplay or more on the director, but regardless, Trouble in Town is an amazing music video and really powerful at the moment, obviously. Okay, so then on the 13th of May, the Spheres account thing tweeted 7-7 for the first time, which is obviously the 7th of July, either American or British. Like, you can't get away. You can't get away from that. It's been tweeting 7-7 pretty consistently since then, and it said at one point announcement 7-7. With what happened yesterday, this obviously takes on new significance, because on the 3rd of July, Coldplay changed their layout and their website completely. This means that the Everyday Life era is over. People have been losing it, and like, I don't think we should say like it's literally gonna come straight away, the album, but this is definitely like we're one step closer to the next era starting, right? So if you want to get excited, go for it. Like, I'm excited. I don't think I'm gonna like wake up, you know, tomorrow and it's gonna be out, but the layout change is definitely an exciting step towards whatever's next. There's been a few more things like on the website that people have pointed out. So at Got My Records on Twitter noticed this, so like shout out to them, well done. For every era on the Coldplay timeline, which if you don't know what the Coldplay timeline is literally like heaven for like Coldplay people that enjoy Coldplay. You know, it's got like everything. It's got like loads of like photos. You can like add your own photos from your concerts, and just it's a really cool like interactive thing, and I highly recommend like going and spending some time on there if you're like bored. I mean, you know, we don't have like anything better to do right now, so but the interesting thing about the timeline is that so every era has a start date and an end date, and the end date is when the next album was released. So for example, Head Full of Dreams era end date was 2019 because Everyday Life was released in 2019. Viva La Vida's end date was 2011 because My Little Lotto was released in 2011. So, like, regardless of whether they were active, it still counts as like an era, whatever. So at Got My Records on noticed that the Everyday Life era end date is 2020. The 2020 confirms that the next thing's starting this year. Because they would say 2019 and then just the, you know, dash. It means something, okay? I'm sure of it. That's like the most concrete one to me that I think is like pretty much like hinting summer's coming. Prepare yourselves. Mainly, Frank has noticed this at Frank Shepherd's 24. Hope I pronounced his name right. Please don't kill me, Dutchies. He noticed that today, which is July the 4th. Happy 2020th birthday, by the way, America. There's a thing called a planet parade, which is happening in space. And it's the biggest one since 1986. And the next one is in 2161. So this is a pretty big deal in space things. And it's a rare, it's like all the planets in the solar system line up. Another space thing that like has been noticed is that on the website there's like a few moons, and they seem to sync to like what's actually happening in real time. July 5th, tomorrow, is a full moon. So again, I don't know if that means anything, but it's interesting that they have something synced up to space, because I think Music of the Spheres, space, come on, Music of the Spheres is a space thing. It's about the planets. Another thing I forgot to mention is that Coldplay filed, again I'm getting this off Coldplay Extra, Coldplay filed Music of the Spheres as a trademark at the same time that they filed Los Unidaddies. Is it Daddy? I don't know how to pronounce it. I've never pronounced it, but they did this like weird side project thing when they were on hiatus. Los Unidads. So upcoming dates to look out for. The 4th of July today is the Planet Parade. 5th of July is full moon. The 7th of July, which is Tuesday, is the Spheres account has been tweeting an announcement. And the 10th of July is Parachute's 20th anniversary, which is Coldplay's first album. So what do I think? Because obviously, just like Will and Guy, I have opinions. I think that something is likely going to happen by the end of the year. I think, obviously, the current pandemic, which is not over, for everyone treating it like it's over. It's not over. Carry on wearing a mask and social distancing and washing your hands, please. I tweeted this yesterday, but I probably didn't articulate it very well. But what I mean is, space is something that happens. Like a full moon. It's a definite thing. You have a full moon every however many days, and it's something that you can't change. The Planet Parade, you know, this one that's happening in 2020 won't happen again for another like over 100 years. It's an immovable thing. So even if things down here on Earth are crazy, stuff in space doesn't care about that. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about in general. But if they were going to sync stuff to space, or like if they did have a definite release timeline in their minds, it doesn't make sense to like hold it back. In conclusion, I'm pretty sure Coldplay are going to do something by the end of the year. We're over halfway through the year, so we're closer to new Coldplay stuff than we are to the beginning of the year. So that's exciting. I think obviously like Music of the Spheres, I don't know if it's the name of it or just the concept or whatever. We know there's a little thing called Angelina. Something could be happening this month. Something that could not be happening this month. But whatever it is, I really enjoy getting clowned by these 4 old men with all of you. And 5, sorry, Phil. If you don't know my Twitter and you want to follow it, because I tweet about Coldplay a lot on there, it's like, this is my handle. And I will see you guys over there. And until then, stay healthy, wear a mask, keep your distance, wash your hands, and
believe in love.
Okay, thanks for watching. Take care. See ya.